Welcome back, Crucible Canvassers, to the last of our Savior deck openings. We're opening the last of the 3 decks here. Super excited, hoping for something big. I will actually be leaving very soon to go to the Philly Vault Tour. So if you see me there, say hi, don't be shy, but I'm super pumped and maybe this will be a deck that I could bring to it. Let's go ahead and crack it open here. I pre-cut it a little bit this time because I remembered. Let's see. Yep, this is the right side. So we'll start with a token, I think. If the packaging will agree with me. Which it just doesn't want to. That's fine. Okay. Our token is... Hello. The Trooper. Okay, not my favorite, but can be good in certain situations. We've got the Trooper here. We've got Saurian Equidon Sanctum. This is Reyes, the Slyly Grandiloquent? The Slyly Grandiloquent? Okay, sure. Not bad. That Archon looks really cool with the tendrils and the wings. The kind of like helmet shape. These are some decent houses. We'll see what Trooper can really pull off in this deck. Maybe we'll get some really good Saurian, some really good Sanctum ways to deal with the Amber on our creatures. But I will be right back. Give me just one moment and we'll dig through these cards. Okay, and we're here now with the card reveal. Again, here's another look at that Archon. It actually looks so good. Let's see if we can get it a little more focused. The Savior treatment on this deck looks amazing. I don't know if any of the previous decks were blue Archons, but the blue just works so well with it, I think. That shininess is really, really pretty. Okay. We're going to set our deck list off to the side here. And then our token, I believe. Yeah, so we can go ahead and just flip it. Our token is the Trooper. So I'm mixed about this. WoE doesn't have a very good way to deal with your Amber on creatures, especially within Saurian. I think they've been trying to balance Saurian and they're almost at a good spot. It's just I think that maybe there shouldn't be any major Saurian capture cards, and they should deal with Amber control in different ways, like key cost and stuff like that. And then all Amber that ends up on Saurian creatures is going to be mostly from Exalting. I think that's a great way to balance it. So this creature exalts after fight and after reaping, but there isn't a whole lot of cards that can really take you anywhere with that. But 5 power is huge, and it looks really good with that Savior. Okay, first card is Longosaurus Lector. It's a 6 power Saurian creature with play and after reap. You may exalt Longosaurus Lector. If you do, make a token creature. 2 of those. 3 of those, okay. The third one with a damage pip. I think we'll probably be fighting with them a lot. If we don't have any other large board control, 6 power is huge, and it doesn't end up in an exalt. But you may exalt is pretty good. So if we need to reap but don't want to exalt it to make a token creature, that's a great way to do it. Hopefully we can get a Legionary Trainer where our tokens interplay ready, because if we could get a Legionary Trainer and then all 3 of these, it's definitely worth the exalt, because then we can get 3 ready Troopers and reap with them as well. Grammaticus Thrax here. Ooh, Epic Poem. So this, Again, I'm not sure what we've seen in the other decks. I'm having a hard time remembering, but Epic Poem is the card to look at for Saurian. So it's the best way to take advantage of the Ambers on creatures in this set, and it can result in some really crazy stuff, depending on if you can capture really good or if you just exalt a bunch. It can result in you getting so much Amber, and if you forge your 3rd key first, that's all that matters. So keep an eye out for this. Beware the Eye, some nice creature removal. So it's an action with an Amber bonus. Says play, deal 3 damage to a creature in the center of its controller's battle line. Oh, also, I don't think I read Epic Poem. Epic Poem is an action that says play, exalt a friendly creature, gain 1 Amber for each Amber on that creature. Ooh, and then we've got Arm the Plebeians. It's got an Amber bonus. It's an action, and it says play, make a token creature, ward it. That's really good, being able to ward, especially with Trooper. Ooh, and then we've got a Quella Lone Hero, 6 power, 1 armor, soaring creature with Omni. Capture 1 amber if there are more enemy creatures than friendly creatures. Very, very good card. Super good amber control that you can kind of pull from on any turn. Also just a huge body. I really, really like this creature. Oh, and City State Interest is really good. It's an action with play. Each friendly creature captures 1 amber. Oh, an Ambrosia Outpost. So this is one of the few ways you can actually take advantage of the amber on your creatures. It's an artifact with a amber pip on it. And action, put a friendly creature on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, move 1 amber from a friendly creature to your pool. So you have to make sure with this one that you have a creature that doesn't have amber on it that you want to cycle. So it's better, at least in this deck it seems, to not put amber on your high value creatures, which is typically going to be the case unless you have some really good ways to protect creatures with amber on them. But you'll have to put a creature under and then you can move an amber from a different creature. And then Forum of Giants. At the start of your turn, the player who controls the most powerful creature gains 1 amber. This actually seems pretty great for this deck. With Trooper as our 5 power token creature, I mean, if we have a Trooper on the board, it's likely that they're the highest power. And if not, we had 4 6 power Saurian creatures just then, so 6 power is big. Let's hope for something even bigger, but that seems like it's our rare. Oh, and then we have another rare, Eclectic Ambrosius. This is a very fun creature. I don't know how often it gets to happen, its effect, just because as soon as it hits the board, it kind of becomes a huge target. But 4 power creature with, at the start of your turn, put a knowledge counter on Eclectic Ambrosius. Action, remove 3 knowledge counters from Eclectic Ambrosius. If you do, gain 6 amber. Super good. Okay, a super useful Reverend Monk here. So we're going into Sanctum. We've got the 4 power creature, Reverend Monk. Reverend... Revered? Reverend? We'll go with Reverend. Reverend Monk gets +2 power for each of its Sanctum neighbors, and this one actually has 2 capture bonuses. So a lot of the times the Reverend Monks in my deck I kind of turn into token creatures if I have any control over it, or they can be uniquely positioned to deal with some like board control, but most of the time they are just kind of fodder. But this one comes in with 2 captures, which is pretty huge. Retribution, if there are more enemy creatures than friendly creatures, destroy an enemy creature. That's pretty great. We'll hope our creature count isn't huge, but that they're all very powerful, so that we can take better control of the Forum of Giants. Pandolph the Provoker here is a 4 power creature with 2 armor. It's got Taunt and Play, enrage an enemy creature. It's a really good card. Shao the Safeguard, 4 power, 2 armor with Deploy and Taunt. Also really good. It looks super cool outlined with that Savior. The kind of halo mixes with its own enlightened attire, I guess. That's like shield and wings and spear. Ooh, Celestial Gorm, some really good artifact control from this set. It's got an amber bonus on it, and it's got Omni. It is an artifact, and Omni destroys Celestial Gorm, return each other artifact to its owner's hand. Battlefield Evangelist here, 3 power, 2 armor. After fight, make a token creature. We've got a lot of night creatures in our Sanctum. I'm really hoping we can get a Colonel Mariana so we can take advantage of that. Light Everlasting, it's got an amber bonus on it. It's an action. Play a Sanctum creature from your discard pile. Play a Sanctum creature anywhere from your discard pile, anywhere in your battle line. That's great. So right now I think the main target would probably be Pandolph, unless we really needed like Shao the Safeguard, but it says play anywhere, so I think Pandolph would be just a better shell at that point. 2 of those. Hadroth's Wall. Each friendly flank creature gets +2 power. That's also great for the Forum of Giants and to just help boost our troopers even further. Ooh, Glorious Few. This is actually a great way to make amber in this set. Something about this set ends up detonating boards a lot, I feel, or I end up in a lot of positions where Glorious Few is just a lot more worth it than it has been in some of the previous sets that it's in. So, great card. Glad to see it. Oh, and then Numquid the Fair. That's fantastic. It's a 3 power creature with play. Destroy an enemy creature. Repeat this effect if your opponent still controls more creatures than you. Interesting. Okay, so it kind of works directly against Glorious Few, but if we can get the Glorious Few off first and then play Numquid onto like an empty friendly board, that'd be super good. It's also just a great way, because it's targeted destroyed effects, to deal with specific creatures or specific like high power creatures that we want gone. She's actually an amazing card. Oh, and then Martyr's End. Wow, okay, Martyr's End into Glorious Few would actually be really crazy. So we want to be careful about our exalting. We don't want to exalt too much if we want to detonate our own board. But it's got an amber bonus on it. It's an action. Destroy any number of friendly creatures. Gain 1 amber for each creature destroyed this way. So what we could do in an ideal scenario is we Martyr's End, we blow up our whole board, get a bunch of amber. Then we play Glorious Few, get a bunch of amber because our enemy has a huge board and we have nothing. Then play Numquid the Fair and targeted destroy each creature until they're down to 1, I think? Yeah, because then it would be even, so Numquid's effect would stop. That would be, wow. That would be a really, really big, really cool turn. You just have to draw into all those things, obviously, but maybe our Equidon will have some really good ways to draw into cards, like an Aquiji Outpost or something. Oh, so cool. Okay. Then we're going into Equidon here. With Equidon, we've got an amber bonus on this action, Trading Frenzy. Play a friendly creature and an enemy creature, each capture 3 amber from their opponent. This is really good if you have something like, oh no. I'll put it on the board. I think I put it on the screen. I think I did this last time we were trying to talk about it. I can never remember. But there's a swap card where you get to swap an enemy creature and a friendly creature. But it's a really good card if you can push the 3 amber you capture onto your opponent's side. Old Tinker, some great efficiency here. 3 power creature with elusive, and after reap, discard a card from your hand, draw a card. Ooh, Shrewd Investor for some decent amber control. It's a 4 power creature with elusive and play. You may have your opponent gain 1 amber. If you do, capture 4. Ornate Talking Tray, some great recursive token making, recursive in the fact that it cycles itself. You've got an amber bonus on it, and it's Omni, destroy Ornate Talking Tray, make a token creature. 2 of those. Oh, Mass Buyout? Wow. So this would be a really good follow-up to any of the further turns, or if our opponent plays a massive board after we have that Numquid the Fair, like they just make a bunch of token creatures or something, this is a great way to just deal with that. Oh, I didn't read the card again. Mass Buyout is an action. Play, destroy each creature. Each player gains amber equal to half the number of their creatures they controlled that were destroyed this way, rounded up. Then we've got Generous Offer, some really good amber control here. Play, destroy a friendly creature. If you do, steal 2 amber. Gemcoat Vendor, 6 power creature with action. Steal 1 amber, deal 1 damage to Gemcoat Vendor. That's separate, so if you action it and the opponent is out of amber, then you don't steal 1, but you would still do the damage, which is something to keep in mind. But another 6 power creature is great, just to help us keep the Forum of Giants on the board. 2 of those. Oh, and then Belligerent Guard, an 8 power creature. Belligerent Guard is a 8 power creature that enters play ready, and on play your opponent draws a card. Some great way to deal with very specific creatures, or to hold Forum of Giants, or just to get an extra reap off on a turn. Oh, and then we've got the Gezrai Blacksmith. It's a 4 power creature with elusive, and at the start of each player's turn, that player chooses to either make a token creature or draw a card. I feel like in this deck, in almost all scenarios, I'm choosing draw a card here. Although I have mixed feelings about this uncommon creature, just because it is guaranteed that your opponent will get this effect, because you play it, then your opponent, before their turn starts, or at the start of their turn rather, they would pick to make a token creature or draw a card. But then if they destroy the board or kill the blacksmith, then you just kind of gave them something for free. But also, if you're really careful and you're trying to bait out somebody's kind of creature control for a different or bigger turn, the blacksmith is a great way to do that, just because you play the blacksmith and your opponent might be like, okay, I don't want them to reap the benefit of that after I just did, so they might play their board wipe early, seeing that there's such a decent passive effect on the board. Oh wow, okay, so maybe we would make tokens with the blacksmith. So we have the action Token of Appreciation here. Play, make a token creature. Forge a key at +7 current cost, reduced by 1 amber for each friendly token creature. That's a good key cheat. One of the very few key cheats in this set. I think the Blorb Hive is the other big one. And then there's the Anomaly Ecto Charge, I think. And, I mean, if you're counting the Anomaly, that's all of the key cheats in Winds of Exchange. But Token Appreciation is definitely a good one, especially in very specific decks. Well, I was pleasantly surprised. First of all, I mean, just the Savior decks look absolutely beautiful. But I was worried, I get a little worried every time I see a Trooper. But this deck's pulled out a lot of stops. That Sanctum seemed really good, it comboed into itself super well. There's a lot of high power creatures. Equidon's got a pretty decent amount of Amber control. We're missing a few pieces I would have liked here and there, but I mean, all of the kind of capturing and exalting and stuff like that could result in a pretty big epic poem. So definitely not bad. Give me one moment. We'll cut away to the deck breakdown, and the temporary preview for SAS numbers actually just went up. So if you're of a certain tier in decks of KeyForge, you get to see what kind of SAS they're looking at right now, which it's super, like, finicky isn't the right word, but it's changing every day as they look into cards, and it's not going to be a kind of like finite answer to anything, and it's definitely not the permanent SAS score. The deck that I'm about to show you will definitely fluctuate in SAS, but I would love to show you some of the other numbers that I haven't been able to show you these past couple videos. So we'll put it up on the board. Just keep in mind that this is work in progress SAS is what we're looking at, but I will be right back. We're here now with our typical deck breakdown. So we've got all the usual piles. There's our token so that you can apply that to any of your thoughts about the deck. This is our pile of token making cards that do not have a secondary purpose. Any card that makes a token that also does something else is in here. We've got the Amber control, expected Amber, artifact control, and creature control. And we're about to dive right in. So here is the current SAS score. We're looking at a 55. I'm sure that'll change. I feel like this deck might go up some. The huge detractor is its meta and its anti-synergy. So the meta, we've got +1 in board clears, but -4 in Amber control, which you'll see in a second, but our Amber control is actually very unique. I don't think I've seen an Amber control that comes out just like it. Only +9 in synergy, and then the base cards aren't very high. Our highest SAS house is actually a combination of Sanctum and Saurian. Equidon was actually the lowest, Token of Appreciation being worth 0, effectively, which is interesting, but I guess it doesn't give any Amber, and the odds of you pulling off that key cheat is pretty slim. It seems like KeyForge is starting to steer away from key cheats a bit, so that makes sense. The highest and most important card being Generous Offer, which I think is interesting. Oh, sorry. A little bit more important than Mass Buyout, at least per its score. Our anti-synergy came from the fact that we've got a lot of creatures and we want to make a lot of creatures. So something like Retribution, or Quell the Lone Hero, or Glorious Few all kind of work against it. And then also we have a couple artifacts, it looks like. So Celestial Gorm doesn't like that just because we return them to our hand. So something like Ornate Talking Tray, Form of Giants, Ambrosia Outpost, which does kind of stink. We really want to keep Form of Giants and Ambrosia Outpost on the board, but Ornate Talking Tray is Omni and Celestial Gorm is Omni. So I think our goal would to be lead into a Celestial Gorm turn with Saurian. So we would pick Saurian, and then we would use the Ornate Talking Trays that we had, and then we would Celestial Gorm, and then we would just play back out our Form of Giants and Ambrosia Outpost. And I think they both have an Amber Pip, so the anti-synergy from that I don't think is actually that big of a deal. Now we're going to dive into our extras and counts right there. So with the bonus Amber, we're looking at about 12, which is okay. It's nothing crazy. Then we've got 13 actions, which is about average, 17 creatures, which is maybe like 1 less than average, and then 6 artifacts, which is a bit above average. It looks like it's taking from what would normally be our upgrades, because we've got 0 upgrades there. And then we've got nothing that archives and no scaling Amber control, but we do have 1 key cheat in the Token of Appreciation, and then 1 board wipe via Numquid the Fair. But our token generation, we've got an 11, which I think is just cards that make tokens. It doesn't list out the name, so I'm not sure how it's rated, but I have seen a like token generation score that was like 11.5. So I'm curious to see. That might just be the number of cards that generate tokens. But you'll see that number actually comes into play a bit with some of the future numbers. So we'll get those off the screen. And there is our amber control. About to dive into that. So our amber control, or our amber and control section. Our amber control is a negative 1.5. We actually went negative in amber control. We're giving our opponent about an amber and a half every game, which is funny. So we do have stuff like generous offer, city-state interests, trading frenzy, ways to like capture, but we don't have a whole lot of ways to deal with that other than ambrosia outpost. And then we go negative because trooper is negative 0.47, and it's multiplied by basically the amount of like troopers that we can make per going through our deck. Then mass buyout is negative, Longosaurus Lector is negative, and epic poem is negative on amber control, all because they exalt like crazy. So we ended up with a negative score. Our expected amber is 21, which is actually pretty great. Artifact control is 0.5 with Celestial Gorm, and then our creature control is an 8.2. So let's look at these cards. We'll dive into the tokens first to kind of get that out of the way. Got Arm the Plebeians here, which is a ward, really great from Trooper, and a bunch of Longosaurus Lectors here, one with a damage bonus. Again, we'll have to be careful. I really think we don't want to exalt much in this deck, so it'll be interesting to see how you kind of fiddle around that. Both are Ornate Talking Trays, which are pretty great. And then the Battlefield Evangelists, which just makes one from fighting, which is also good because it's a kind of creature control in that aspect. Then we've got our Amber control here. We're going to start with Aquila the Lone Hero. It's the Omni 2 capture. Aquila is interesting because we probably won't get it to go off super often with how big we want our board to be again, but I mean, having another body on the board is great if we can pull out that Sanctum combo I saw earlier. Grammaticus Thrax is in here because of its enhancements, which is interesting because we haven't done a full breakdown like this on decks with enhancements. I've only really on the channel looked at like Age of Ascension and Worlds Collide, so you haven't seen any like Mass Mutation or Dark Tidings openings. So it'll be interesting to see where enhancements fall within the kind of system that I have organized, but the 2 capture is good. I also noticed it looking in hindsight that both of those captures ended on the Reverend Monk, which is really funny, but it's a great place for them to end up. It might have been a little better spread out, but I think the 2 capture there will do us a little better. Our Gemcoat Vendors, which we have 2 of for the stealing. That's pretty good. Shrewd Investor, where we have to give our opponent Amber to capture, but capturing 4 is pretty strong. Trading Frenzy, so in this deck, because we can't swap control of creatures in any way, Trading Frenzy is basically we want to capture onto an enemy creature we intend to kill with like a Gemcoat Vendor or the Belligerent Guard, and then capture onto a creature we want to stay alive on our side, and then just fight into them and hold that Amber as long as possible. City-State Interests, so each friendly creature would capture 1 Amber. It's another thing that we'll have to be careful of because we want to wipe our own board for that huge like kind of explosion of Amber, but if we have a bunch captured and the opponent was never able to wipe our board, we might have to just not do that, you know, so that we don't give them all of the Amber we've been stockpiling on our creatures. And then Generous Offer, which is the best Amber control from this with a flat steal 2 after destroying 1 creature, which is a pretty low cost. We don't have any huge like destroyed effect creatures, I don't think, but even then, I mean, we could hit a Reverend Monk or a Belligerent Guard that's almost dead or something, or even just a Trooper that we've made that we want to cycle. Then we're going to Expected Amber here. So there aren't too many cards here. A lot of it was, let's see, we had the bonus pips, and then we had some big numbers from like Epic Poem and Martyr's End. That got us up to 21. The stack doesn't feel too big, but we've got Eclectic Ambrosias here, which if we can get to go off will give us 6 Amber, which is huge. The Form of Giants, which I think is pretty maintainable with this deck, with how high its creature, like the power level of its creatures is. Then we've got the Ambrosia Outpost in here. I could have technically put this in Amber Control as well because we're moving captured Amber away, but I feel like it was better put in Expected Amber just because it has that pip as well as it's going to our pool, and we might, because we exalt and we capture so much, be putting a friendly creature with Amber on it away, and so the opponent would gain 1 but then we move 1, so I think it's better fit in the Expected Amber. Martyr's End, we were all expecting to be here. And then Epic Poem, of course, which hopefully we can get a huge play off of. think this deck really wants to just go fast. Like your goal is to build a huge board, blow it up, get as much amber off that board as possible, and forge as many keys as you can as quick as you can. And even if your opponent is gaining amber from you and forging keys, your goal is to just kind of beat them out in the KeyForge race. Then we've got Celestial Gorm here as our only artifact control, which again isn't bad. It got some anti-synergy, but I think in this deck it's good as long as we use it on a Saurian turn. So if we can just use both of our talking trays to make token creatures, then bounce the Celestial Gorm to put some stuff back into our opponent's hand, we can replay the Saurian artifacts and actually gain amber off of it. So I think that this is such a cool, unique kind of artifact control in that it's very fitting to Sanctum, and it's like just a big board bounce for artifacts. Then we're into creature control here with Belligerent Guard. Belligerent Guard also could have ended up in Expected Amber because it enters ready. It's just as likely that you fight with it that it is that you reap. But I feel like just because it's 8 power, I always feel super inclined to fight unless I'm like just away from getting into check. Then we've got Pandolf the Provoker here with that Enrage. Beware the Ides, which Beware the Ides is actually one of those cards that's better enhanced in Winds of Exchange, just because you can make token creatures. So if you've both got even, your opponent's got an even number of creatures, so there's no one to Beware the Ides on their board, but you've got an odd number. If you don't have any creatures in hand, maybe you have a make a token creature effect on the board that can give you an even number, so you can just play it for the bonus pip. Then Retribution here. Mass Buyout, which is just a great board wipe, and Numquid the Fair. So not bad. 55 sass is real low, but I don't think it's, that bad. At least it certainly doesn't feel that way. It's got a lot of pieces to it with the board wipes and the pretty high expected amber. Although maybe within WoE, it's not one of the best. I've gotten some pretty crazy good WoE decks that I really enjoy playing. But now we can also finally take a look at our speed and board. So again, these numbers are possibly temporary. We don't know what they're adjusting or what they're dealing with. I just am at the tier with decks of KeyForge where I can check out a preview of all the numbers that they're giving. Our speed is 1.3. That comes from specifically the Blacksmith and the Old Tinker. Old Tinker letting us discard and draw, and then Blacksmith, if we can keep it as a passive effect, will let us and the opponent draw or make a token creature. Our board is huge. We've got a massive board with Belligerent Guard and Reverend Monk kind of leading the charge. If we can get Reverend Monk next to 2 Sanctum creatures, it's valued at 8 power just because it would be 4 power, 4 armor. Then a bunch of 7 power with the armor and power values, a bunch of 6 power just flat out creatures. It's pretty crazy. 142 is massive, and that's with negative effective power from things like Generous Offer, Martyr's End, Mass Buyout, Ambrosia Outpost. This is after a bunch of negative appliers, so it's a big deck. Then we've got in Recursion the Light Everlasting. That's the one that would let us recur some Sanctum creatures. Again, I think our choice there is probably just Pandolf or Numquid for an impromptu board wipe. Ooh, Numquid could be a really good one. I didn't think of that. So one of those two for certain, or Reverend Monk for the 2 capture bonuses on it. So there are a couple good options. And then Ambrosia Outpost is in Recursion as well because it puts something in the bottom of the deck. Creature protection, we're looking at Hadroth's Wall for increased power on our flanks. Then Pandolf the Provoker and Shall the Safeguard for their taunt. Our disruption is negative, which is interesting, which I guess just means that Equidon is introduced such a mess with its deals in this set. So Celestial Gorm would disrupt our opponent's hand, but the Belligerent Guard and the Blacksmith would actually give our opponent cards or tokens in their hand, but I mean, it would just be a draw if they weren't playing Winds of Exchange, which could be pretty bad for us. And we've got nothing in other. So that was the deck. Not bad. I have really loved these Savior decks. Again, the card treatment for them is so gorgeous. And I just think they're so pretty and so unique. And I'm so glad that I decided to buy 2 extras to go through these with you. Like I said, I'm about to literally, I think the next couple, 2 days, I'll be packing for the Philly Vault Tour. I haven't ever done a kind of in-person video thing before, but I do want to make a video for you guys so you guys can see it if you weren't able to go. It'll probably be a vlog style, you know, my trip to Philly Vault Tour, where I will just do a bunch of B-roll video, take a bunch of pictures and stuff like that, and I will, when I get back and have the time, edit it all together and just voice over it, because I don't think I'll have a good enough audio quality out there. But you have that to look forward to. I'm going to try and record a video that can go out on the Monday of while I will be gone out at the Vault Tour, or coming back or something. I'll be busy because of the Vault Tour, but I'm going to record a video soon. It won't be your typical deck opening video. We're not getting into that display just yet, I think. I think we'll probably just take a peek at the Gormengeist adventure. I haven't seen a super thorough opening / breakdown of what's in there, and I would love to do some kind of voiceover reading of the intro into the adventure. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And again, if you love KeyForge, you love the KeyForge content, hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to keep stuff going. I really want to help KeyForge grow above all things, but also my channel growing, just because it's become a huge part of my life, and it's a bit more of a hobby. It feels like more than a hobby. But remember, the most important part of KeyForge is the person sitting across the table. You guys have a great rest of your day.